Haribo, Namaste everyone, Krishna. Krishna, welcome to my Bhagavad Gita class tonight, chapter 4, text 41. Although we'll start with an overview of chapter 4 and a short Kirtan. Yasiko Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Radha Krishna Vrindavan, 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 Radha Krishna Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajika Satara Sata Shishima Jagakuru Siddhasarupananda Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajika Satara Sata Shishima His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koda Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur's World Mission Ki Jai. Navadvita Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath, Shyamakun, Radhakun, Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavandam Ki Jai. Mathuradam Ki Jai. Mayapodam Ki Jai. Gangamai Ki Jai. Jamunamai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, Gaura Premanandi, Hare Hare Bol. Amagina Timarandasya Gina Gana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militanyena Tajmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stathpitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantekam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavenbhyo Vaishnavbhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. For speaking, first I offer my humble obeisances, the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagakuru Siddhasarupananda Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada is the mercy manifestation of Lord Chaitanya. Is very dear to Radha and Krishna. Offer my respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are like wish-fulfilling trees, able to fulfill all the desires of the fallen living entities, and are full of compassion upon them. Well, namaste. Thanks for joining me. So we'll see where we get to tonight. Last week I got a little carried away and gave the overview of chapters 1 to 3. So tonight I was going to continue with so an overview of chapter 4, and the verse we're up to, of course, is 441, which is the second last verse in the chapter. So we're just going to go over an overview of chapter 4. So there's 6 verse sequences in Bhagavad in chapter 4. So a sequence of verses is just a way to break down the verses in the chapter. So there's sort of a sequence of verses is dealing with a topic that's related. So the verses are kind of related. It's like a group of verses before Krishna will move on to a slightly different topic or a different topic within the chapter. So the first sequence is text 1 to 3, and this is where Krishna is describing how transcendental knowledge descends. In the previous at the end of chapter 3, and also in chapter 2, Krishna has spoken a bit about transcendental knowledge. And so at the beginning of chapter 4, he begins to describe where this jnana, or transcendental knowledge, where it comes from, how it comes here to this to our dimension. And then moving on from there, he then discusses his mission. So this is actually the first place in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna starts making it really clear that he is the Supreme Person, that he is Parabrahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he describes himself as such. Anyway, we'll go into this in a moment. Anyway, so that's text 4 to 9, where he just describes himself and why he's appearing. Right? He's transcendental personality, where material personality is bound up within our material bodies. Well, Krishna's body, as Lord Brahma states in 5.1 of the Brahma Samhita, is Sakshirananda Vigraha, comprised of knowledge, eternality, consciousness, knowledge, eternality, Sat, Chit is the knowledge, cognizance, and Ananda, blissfulness. It's the nature of Vigraha, Krishna's form. It's comprised of eternality, knowledge, and bliss. And so our eternal essence, spirit soul, are also comprised of this Satchidananda. But unfortunately, in this material world, we've become covered by ajnana. So jnana is knowledge, ajnana is the lack of knowledge or ignorance. And so we falsely misidentify with this material body. This is false ego, means the false identification with the material body, thinking that the body is the self. So anyway, but Krishna is not like that, and so he describes the reasons for his appearance in the next sequence of verses 10 to 15. There's a little bit of a mix of verses, but Krishna describes his relationship, how as people surrender unto him, he rewards them accordingly, and also that he's the source of the 4 varnas, the 4 occupational duties. And there's a section where Krishna then describes karma yoga and knowledge. This is text 16 to 24. He's describing about karma, akama, vikama, and more about nishkama karma yoga, working without attachment to the results and the benefits of that. And Krishna describes different kinds of sacrifices of knowledge, of which the best is the sacrifice of knowledge. And then in the final series of verses which we're up to, in text 34 to 42, Krishna describes the wonderful nature of transcendental knowledge and what a gift it is. In other words, we're so fortunate to be receiving this gift of transcendental knowledge. You know, it's life-changing. So a summary. So Krishna previously spoke, or Krishna says to Arjuna, I previously spoke this science of yoga. He describes it as yoga. The science of yoga to Vivishwan. Vivishwan was the sun god. This was many millions of years ago. But over the course of time it became lost, nashto, scattered. And so then Krishna describes, well, I'm explaining it to you, Arjuna, you know, as you are my devotee and friend. So this is 4.3. You know, and because you are my devotee, a bhakta, because you are my devotee, so this word bhakti means service. It also means love. So it's loving service. That's why it's described as devotional service. Devotional service means, you know, loving service, engaging in a loving, serving relationship with Krishna. But one can serve him in many different kinds of moods. You know, Arjuna is serving Krishna as his friend and brother-in-law and cousin, as I described a little bit last week. So this is Arjuna's loving relationship, or rasa. There's different rasas described as, you know, analyzed by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as 5 different rasas. And also this is described in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and of course in many other works. But you know, the 5 rasas, Santa rasa, or neutrality, this is just in the mood of, you know, being attracted to Krishna, loving Krishna, just in a mood of neutrality. Like, in other words, there is an active service. There's just appreciation and love, but that love doesn't translate into anything concrete. Sometimes it's described as being the, you know, the relationship with that the impersonalist has with the Brahman effulgence of the Lord, or of the mystic yogi's relationship with Paramatma. It's kind of like it's neutral. There's no active service. But this can also apply to you know, people, to jivas they're attracted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to Krishna. They even have the beginnings of love for Krishna, but it's not an active relationship, as the next 4 rasas are dasha, service, rendering service. And then sakya, friendship. So there's the cowherd boys in Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan. They have a friendship relationship with Krishna. And Vatsalya, parenthood, Mother Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj. And then the highest rasa, Madhurya rasa, the relationship of loving Krishna as a consort, and of which the highest is an unmarried relationship. You know, of the gopis of Vrindavan, the intimate loving relationship with Krishna. So Arjuna is a bhakta. So bhakta means one who has love for Krishna. So Krishna says, I'm explaining this Bhagavad Gita to you, Arjuna, because you are my bhakta. Bhakta ashime shaka sheti. You are my bhakta. You're my devotee. You have love for me. So I'm describing to you, Krishna calls it a rahasyam. So this science of yoga, calling it a rahasyam, which is a transcendental mystery. So everyone's mystified, right? Like, what the hell is going on in this material dimension? Who am I? Why am I here? What's the purpose of life? It's like this sort of mystery, and then we begin to, this is Amathato Brahma Jignasa. Now is the time to inquire into the absolute truth. Brahma, absolute truth. What is it? Why am I here? What's the purpose of life? Right? It's a mystery. People can't figure it out. But a lot of people don't even try to figure it out. They're just so busy living it, they're in their temporary material body. They're so caught up in that, they don't even think about, well, what's the real meaning of life? But those who then begin to inquire into it, it's like, well, Krishna is like the absolute truth. It's a mystery. And then, of course, there's the mystery of Krishna. Krishna is like, well, here's Krishna. He's speaking Bhagavad Gita, so he looks like a person. He's in human form, appearing in this world. And he's engaging in relationships with people, like he's acting as the chariot driver of Arjuna. So this is a transcendental mystery, a rahasyam. Krishna says, so I'm explaining this rahasyam to you, Arjuna, this transcendental mystery. And Krishna is, he's told Arjuna, look, Arjuna, so Krishna is referred to Vivishwan. I spoke this science of yoga to Vivishwan millions of years ago. That's how Krishna starts. So Arjuna he goes, asking the question that's on everyone's mind. It's like, how can I understand that you spoke this yoga millions of years ago? I mean, like, Krishna, everybody knows that you appeared in Mathura, in the prison house as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. So, and then you've only, you've been here in this world, I can't remember how many years it is, like maybe 50, 60 years or whatever. And it's like, well, Krishna, what do you mean you spoke this science of yoga millions of years ago to Vivishwan? I don't understand. How's this possible? Right? So, Arjuna is, he's under the influence of Yogamaya. He's the devotee of Krishna. So we ask this question, but we're under the influence of Maya Devi, under the influence of illusion, ignorance, ajnana. Right? We're not understanding. We're doubting, which in the verse tonight actually, where Krishna is explaining how doubts are slashed, through different means. So we'll come to that. He's describing the slashing of doubts. So Arjuna here is expressing doubts. Krishna, how can you say this? Krishna, so then Krishna responds, or gives Krishna the opportunity to explain that his body is transcendental and unborn. As Lord Brahma says, Sakshirananda Vigraha. Right? Krishna's body is comprised of eternality, is Sat, eternal, truth, ever existing, and fully cognizant, and full of blissfulness. So Krishna says, I can remember all of my births, but you can't. They're not actually births, they're appearances. Krishna can remember everything. Krishna knows everything, past, present, and future. Whereas Arjuna, no, you're not like that. So Krishna's body is transcendental and unborn. And so then he begins to explain the reasons for his appearance, which is to re-establish Dharma, to protect the devotees, the sadhus, sadhanam, to annihilate the miscreants, Vinishaya Chadaskritam. So these are these verses, 4.7, 4.8. These are like really key verses in the Bhagavad Gita. Then Krishna says, one who knows this truth about him, Janma Kama Chami Divyam, one Divyam knowledge, one who knows my Janma Kama, the nature of my birth and the nature of my activities, attains his eternal abode, attains bhava, a loving relationship with Krishna. So then Krishna describes that everyone follows his path in all respects. As people surrender to him, he rewards them accordingly. And he is the creator of the four varnas, or the occupational duty orders, of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra in society. Of course, he's also the source of the ashramas, brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasi. This is this vana ashrama system is created by Krishna. And it's everywhere in the world. It's not followed perfectly, of course, and it's become very corrupted. Even within India, it became corrupted into the caste system. But everywhere you go, there's people in the different stages of life. They're young and unmarried, they're married, they're retired, and then some of them become renunciates. Right? People are working as intellectuals, as brahmanas. People are working as warriors and administrators, kshatriyas. People are farming and engaged in mercantile activity, business, vaishyas. And then others are working, or artisans, shudras. So this is everywhere, all around the world. Yet even though Krishna even though he's the creator of this system, still he's a non-doer. He's unaffected by the activities of the living entities. Everybody's doing all this stuff. He's created the whole system, but he's not affected by it. And one who understands this truth about Krishna does not become entangled in the reactions of work. Well, there's one who has a transcendental understanding and acts without attachment to the results, is not entangled in the reactions of work. So this then leads to Krishna describing about kama, which is action, akama, so non-action, and vikama, forbidden action. And that one who performs karma yoga in knowledge attains the spiritual world. So akama, Krishna describes at length, akama means non-action, but it doesn't mean sitting around and doing nothing, which no one can do. No one can sit around and do nothing. We have to eat. You can try and minimize your activity as much as possible, but nonetheless, you have to do something. You're breathing, you're moving, you're having to go shopping, you're having to do whatever, right? So this is still activity. So non-action means actually to act without attachment to the results. This is known as nishkama karma yoga. Nishkama, kama means lust or desire. Nish means without it. So nishkama karma yoga means working without attachment to the results. Engaging in varnashrama duties in the system that Krishna has set up. If one acts without attachment to the results, then one is not subject to karmic reaction for those actions. But higher than this is offering the results to Krishna. And higher, like just offering the results to Krishna or doing things because this is out of the sense of duty, obligation, so on. This is good, this is beneficial, this is the way things should be. But higher than that is acting out of love for Krishna, loving relationship with Krishna. In Lord Chaitanya's conversation with Srila Ramananda Roy, the Ramananda Samvada, the conversation within chapter 8 of the Madhya Lila of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Lord Chaitanya asks Ramananda Roy, please describe the goal of life and how to attain it. So Ramananda Roy, he begins with a description of the Varnashrama, the Varnashram Dharma. He says if one follows this Varnashram Dharma system, then this is perfection, the goal of life. So, Lord Chaitanya rejects it. No, that's external. And then I won't go through the whole thing. I'm actually planning to give a series of classes on the chapter 8 of the Madhya Lila, the conversation between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy. It's a wonderful conversation, covers many different things. But anyway, Ramananda Roy keeps saying different things, and Lord Chaitanya says, no, that's external. Even to the point where Arjuna is saying, Krishna says, Bhagavad Gita, just surrender unto me, 1866, virtually the most famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita. No, and Lord Chaitanya says, no, that's still external. So what does this external mean? It means it's in this material world. It's not a spiritual activity. It's only when Lord Chaitanya started to become a little satisfied with Ramananda Roy's answers when he begins discussing acting in loving relationships and rasas in the spiritual world, in a spiritual loving relationship with Krishna. Of course, one can have this spiritual loving relationship with Krishna in one of the rasas while present in this world. One doesn't have to be physically located in the spiritual world. But anyway, so at that point then, Lord Chaitanya says, okay, now tell me more. Go higher. Ramananda Roy begins describing the different loving relationships one can have with Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya is going, yes, go higher. Tell me something more. Ramananda Roy is feeling that Krishna is speaking, that Lord Chaitanya is speaking through him. I'm just a puppet. You're speaking through me, Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya keeps telling him, go higher, go higher. Of course, then he describes the loving relationships of Srimati Radharani for Krishna and the mood of the gopis in serving Srimati Radharani and Krishna. So anyway, that's a topic for another class. But one who's engaging in transcendental loving service for Krishna and is engaged in serving Krishna, offering everything to Krishna, then this is akama, in the sense that there's no, even though one is active, there is no reactions, material reactions. There's no bad karma, there's no good karma. Good karma will take one to the heavenly planets, to Swaga, the abode of Indra. Which in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is like so concerned. We're going to go to hell. I'm not going to go to heaven. As I described last week, Krishna chastises Arjuna in chapter 2, in a sequence of verses about in the middle of the chapter, where he's telling him, no, Arjuna, the doors will be thrown open to you, Swagadwaram. The doors to Swaga, or heavenly planets, will be thrown open to you if you perform your duty as a Kshatriya. So this is good karma, following the Varnashram system. This is good karma, good results. Whereas if you don't do that, then you'll go to hell for not fulfilling your responsibilities and duties. So anyway, so Krishna explains quite at length about this karma, akama, vikama, and that one who performs karma yoga in knowledge attains the spiritual world. So with knowledge, transcendental knowledge. This is why this chapter is called Transcendental Knowledge. So Krishna is given transcendental knowledge about himself, that he's transcendental, that he's not the body. His body is transcendental and unborn. He doesn't have a material body. and he explains the reasons for his appearance. Then he, the different topics I've already described that Krishna is describing. This is transcendental knowledge. This is jnana. And that one who engages in karma yoga, nishkama karma yoga, and has knowledge as well. So action and knowledge about Krishna, then such a person can attain the spiritual world. Then Krishna begins to describe different types of sacrifices. One can become purified and attain the spiritual atmosphere. So he describes different things, different, pranayama, breathing techniques, and just, being a brahmachari and so on. He describes quite a number of different types of sacrifice, of Vedic sacrifices. He says all of these can be purifying, and by becoming purified by them, one can attain the spiritual atmosphere. But the best is the sacrifice of knowledge, jnana yagnaha. So yagna is sacrifice, and sacrifice of knowledge. So at the end of Bhagavad Gita, 69 or 70, Krishna says, Ajasyari chaya imam damyam samvada mavayaho jnana yagnena tainaham ishta sha miti me matihi. That one who studies this damyam samvada, this samvada is conversation, damyam, this conversation we're having about Dhamma, or it can mean a sacred conversation. And of course Bhagavad Gita is a sacred conversation. But as I was describing last week, it's very much about Dhamma, duty, action, responsibility, doing the right thing, the law. Sometimes Dhamma is translated, academics translated as the law with a capital L, right? The law. In other words, it's not a material law, it's not a law given by men, it's a spiritual law applying to everyone, doing the right thing. And anyway, so very much this conversation in Bhagavad Gita, is driven by Arjuna saying, Yakshrayasha nishitam bruhitam me. Please tell me definitely what is for my ultimate benefit. What is Shreyas? What is my ultimate benefit? Now, of course, I talked about this for ages last week. I'm not going to repeat the whole conversation again. But Arjuna is asking, what is the right thing to do? Right? I know the verse, I can't always remember the whole verse. I kind of memorize the verses in a certain sequence, and if I'm not saying the verse ahead of it, then I forget how it starts. Anyway. He said, Prichami tvam dhamma samuda shetaha, right? So, Krishna is saying, now I am confused about my duty, kapanya dosa pahata swabhava, mine, my duty. Prichami tvam dhamma samuda shetaha. He's not sure what should he do? What is his dharma in this situation? What's the right thing? So anyway, this conversation of Bhagavad Gita, a song or a hymn of Bhagavan, the Supreme Person who's full of all opulences, this song or conversation, this sacred conversation, Krishna says in 1870 that this is a sacrifice of knowledge. In other words, what are we doing? We're sacrificing our intelligence. We're studying Bhagavad Gita. We're using our mind, trying to understand, well, what's the meaning of what Krishna is saying? How does it apply to my life? And we're discussing it. People are giving classes on it. I'm giving a class on it. You're listening to the class. All right? This is a sacrifice of knowledge. We could be doing something else with our time. We don't need to do this. We can do something else. But we're trying to study. We're trying to learn and appreciate this. So this is a sacrifice of knowledge. So Krishna says that this is the best sacrifice. The best sacrifice is not sacrificing stuff. Right? There's different kinds of sacrifices. There's like sacrificing of material things. There's, sacrifices of ghee, burning, fire sacrifice, and grains. But the best sacrifice is the sacrifice of jnana, or knowledge, using one's intelligence. So then Krishna then goes into the next sequence of verses, the last sequence of verses, where he says to attain knowledge, one should approach a spiritual master submissively and with inquiry and service. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprajnena sevaya. So if you want knowledge, vidi, about tad or that, what he's been describing, also in a bigger sense, you want knowledge about what the purpose of life is, then one must approach a bona fide spiritual master, one who has seen the truth. A tattvadashinaha, someone who's seeing, jnaninas tattvadashinaha, jnaninas, one who has knowledge, illuminated with knowledge and about truth, tattva, truth, dashinaha, one who is seeing the truth. You must approach such a person and approach them submissively and with inquiry. So pranipatena is the submission, pariprajnena is the inquiry, and sevaya is service. So one should be rendering service. So, and then the spiritual master will initiate us into knowledge. And the fire of this transcendental knowledge that we receive from Gurudev will burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. So Krishna begins to glorify transcendental knowledge. Burn to ashes the reactions of all material activities. One situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. This world's a miserable place. But the transcendental knowledge will enable us to sail over this ocean of material suffering, this ocean of material miseries. Arjuna's doubts should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, Krishna begins the chapter describing about how this science of yoga became lost. And now Krishna is giving Arjuna the weapon of knowledge with which to slash doubts. So armed with yoga, he should fight. Arjuna is not wanting to fight. Oh, I don't want to fight. Krishna is telling him, no, armed with yoga, knowledge, being in union with the Supreme, being in union with me, with my will, you should fight. I want you to fight, so you should fight. So that's the summary of the chapter. And so the gift of knowledge is this sequence of verses, text 34 to 42. So 34, and we kind of discussed this a little already, just in that little summary. But Krishna says, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. And when you have thus learned the truth, you will know that all living beings are but part of me and that they are in me and are mine. When we've learned the truth from the bona fide spiritual master, then we'll know that this is actually the Lord Chaitanya's doctrine, the doctrine of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Each of the sampradayas has their own little key, little sort of sutra. Sutra means a pithy statement that sort of differentiates them. So like their statement about the relationship of the what's known as sambandha, relationship. One's relationship with Krishna, one's relationship with this material world, and, well, who the heck is this who am I, right? So each sampradaya has their own statement. For the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Lord Chaitanya's statement is Achincha Beta Beta Tattva. So Tattva means truth, Achincha is inconceivable, and Beta Beta, Sanskrit has what's known as sandhi, words are joined together. So when you break these words apart, then you can analyze, well, what are the words? So beta, so it's actually two words, beta and a-beta. So beta means, simultaneous and simultaneously one, and then a-beta means but not, right? We're not one, so simultaneously one yet distinct. So the spirit soul, the jiva, is simultaneously one with Krishna, and that we're coming from Krishna, we're part and parcel of Krishna, but we are a-beta. We are not Krishna, we're different. So achincha beta beta tattva, simultaneously one yet distinct, or the truth of this, the truth, the inconceivable truth or tattva of inconceivable oneness yet distinction. Whereas the impersonalists, the Sankaracharyas, Mayavada school or Sampradaya, theirs is Kaivalyam, undifferentiated oneness, right? And then, Madhvacharya, Ramanuja Acharya, Imbadicha Acharya, Nimbaka Acharya, they have their own, statement as well, which I won't go into. But anyway, so here Krishna is saying that when you've thus learned the truth, you will know that all living beings are part of me, and that they are in me, and that they are mine. Then even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. As the blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has achieved this enjoys the self within himself in due course of time. So here Krishna is describing the wonderful benefits of transcendental knowledge. Even if you're the most sinful person engaged in so much sinful activity, the most sinful of all sinners, when you're situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you can cross the ocean of misery. And this knowledge, it's like a blazing fire, turning firewood to ashes. So this burns to ashes all reactions to material activities. And there's nothing as sublime or as pure as it. And it's the mature fruit of all mysticism or yoga practices. And one who has achieved it enjoys the self or the Atma, otherwise becomes fully self-realized within himself in due course of time. So Krishna is describing just how wonderful this transcendental knowledge is. Then he describes that a faithful man who is absorbed in transcendental knowledge. So having faith. This is, throughout life, we engage in previous lives, we engage in what's known as sukriti. We come in contact with devotees, we hear a little bit about Krishna, maybe we eat some prasadam, so on. This is all sukriti. Or maybe, we're following some other religious path, some religious process. So this is sukriti. We're accumulating. This is accumulating this sukriti. And when we have enough sukriti, then then we develop faith. Somehow we come across the words of Bhagavad Gita, or we come across in contact with a devotee who says something to us, and we're struck by it. We have some faith. This is not necessarily at this point where Krishna is describing full faith, but we have faith. So, but Krishna here is describing actually a faithful man who's absorbed in transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses, quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace, shanti. So having faith in this knowledge, faith in Krishna, and who subdues his senses. So two things, faith and controlling the senses. Right? They go together. No good. If you aren't controlling the senses, well, your faith is just going to become eroded. You know, without sense control, we just become lost, driven by lust. Right? The senses are controlled by lust. They, sense of sight, sense of hearing, sense of smell drags us to want to do things that have nothing to do with spiritual life. So we have to control the senses, and having faith and being absorbed in transcendental knowledge, so studying Bhagavad Gita, other sacred literatures, and chanting Krishna's names. You know, transcendental knowledge is active. Krishna describes in chapter 9, text either 1 or 2, when he describes the Rajavidya Rajaguyam, that he's going to describe now the king of knowledge and the king of education, king of knowledge, and the Rajaguyam, the king of secrets, right? The most confidential knowledge. He says, Susukam Karamavyayam. It's joyfully, Susukam, joyful. It's Khatum, performed. It's like joyfully performed. It's like it's not inactive. Transcendental knowledge doesn't mean just sitting around. It's like, because I'm watching these these wonderful kirtans that our spiritual master Prabhupada has arranged, right? This B-Peace YouTube channel with just these fantastic kirtans, all day kirtans, different chants everywhere going around the world. It's just fantastic. So this is joyfully performed. But then Krishna says, but ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So the faithful man who has absorbed in transcendental knowledge and subdues his senses, he attains the supreme spiritual peace. But then Krishna describes the ignorant and faithless person who doubt the revealed scriptures, samsayam, do not attain God consciousness. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So tonight's verse, which we'll discuss next week, text 41, is therefore one who has renounced the fruits of his action, whose doubts are destroyed by transcendental knowledge, and who is situated firmly in the self, is not bound by works. So next week we'll get back to the verse and go through the Sanskrit, study the purport, and discuss it in more in depth. So thank you very much. Appreciate everyone's comments and listening and watching. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo, Namaste, Krishna, Krishna.